welcome back to the channel. I'm Mitchell.
And I'm Greg.
Today we're working on my 2017 Chevrolet Cruze, and we're going to do some brake servicing slash a caliper replacement on the driver's side front. This isn't really the way I wanted to start the so-called project for this car, but can't choose when things go bad. We'll properly introduce the car and do a comprehensive review of it a little later this spring as a GB Productions test drive video. So without further ado, we'll get right into the work here, because I have to work later this afternoon, so we have a time crunch. So the first thing we want to note from before is that my wheel was loose, which I did check the torques a second time like you're supposed to. The torque value on this car is 100, and apparently it came loose again, and so that might be the whole CV axle joint problem we thought we had. I guess we will figure that out after we do the brakes here and take it out for a spin. So now anyway, we're going to get into servicing the brakes without a service manual. Supposedly these brakes are very similar to the Jetta, which we'll have a link to the video up in the top right. They're the same style, so on the backs when we get there, it's the same kind of, the handbrake is in the piston, so you need the special tool to roll it back in. And the fronts are relatively similar too, not like the BMW with the springs. With the spring you pop off and then the caliper comes off. This is the carrier bolt style. So yeah, we'll just dig right into it here. We're not going to go into a huge amount of detail.
Should we look up some torque values first?
They're for the diesel, but I'm going to assume they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, I don't think this one and that one probably have the same brakes.
So yeah, let's get in on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen the banjo, as Greg told me. So that
just
we can,
to make sure that, because if you got a caliper in your hand and you're trying to undo it, you can't do it.
So we need a wrench for that, right?
Yeah, it's probably like as small as 10, maybe 12.
I got it.
I'm also going to grab some brake fluid so we can sterilize it and use the air.
So 3/8 ratchet. And we're just going to crack this bad boy loose.
Let's clean it first. So then you can crack it loose just so we know it'll come undone, and then tighten it back up so we don't lose a bunch of fluid. And it's bigger than that, sir.
You said it was 10.
I guessed.
Leave it to Opel to make it 11.
That's a Volkswagen kind of thing to do.
Well, they are German. Yep, 11. So it's 11, not 10.
Okay, and then go the other way.
Go.
And tighten your back up before we use too much fluid.
Perfect.
Yeah, good. And then you're probably going to need 13 or 14 for those.
Okay. So next we want to actually get the caliper off, right?
Yeah, and you can try. If it'll come off nicely, you can just do that. Otherwise, you might have to just that stays there.
These are clips that hold something together.
That one's from up there. It hooks on the pad, I guess.
Okay. Try to keep these together.
Those are what keep them from falling away from the rotor, I guess. We're gonna have to sterilize all this because it's all soaked in brake fluid, which means your braking force on this wheel isn't as good.
Well, that's probably why it was.
Maybe.
So there's still like tons of pad on here. They're nowhere near done with, but they are very, very dirty.
Yeah, so just keep them separate which way they go.
Inside pad. Sweet. Okay.
And I mean we're gonna have to clean it all, so you might as well take the anti-rattle clips off too. Just don't bend your snot.
I think there's new ones in there.
Yeah. Keep those again the way they go in case.
They're also very dirty.
Move stuff out of the way a bit more here. Okay. Alright, so if you're going to take the carrier off, then that makes life easy. That's these huge honking ones here.
A little bit of rust on the edge.
That's why it was tough for you to get through, because they made them a little bit too long. So that should come off there.
Slides off like a charm.
Yep. So we need to.
Are you gonna? The rotor looks fine, I would think.
It's all got brake fluid on it though, still, right?
So it's
the
gotta come off too.
No. Well, how do these ones come off?
Just the internal hex or internal torques.
So I guess we can just take it off then. It's just not what I was hoping to do, but
Probably bigger than
it's a Torx. So have you got in that other tray? Does it have them in the base already?
Yep.
Be better if you have that.
He's caked on there good.
Well, there's a gap. There's a gap there now, so it has to have moved. So it's good that we're taking that off anyways, because that should not have been that hard. Look at all that.
Yeah, the wheel bearing will probably go. That's from using winter rims that are just rusty as shit.
Well, not between the rotor and the hub though, right?
It will seep in through the...
Yeah. Well, yeah, and if your winter rims don't actually seal to the hub, then that'll be a good part of
Look at all the rust back there too.
I will get the grinder with the power wire wheel to do this. We're gonna have to spend some time with scraper, screwdriver, wire brush to get that all cleaned up though. I blow it all over you. Okay, so I will get going on that if you want to spend some time on the hub. Get it all cleaned up, try and get all the shale off it.
Alright, so we've cleaned off the hub now, and we've, off camera there, Greg cleaned the rotor. and the rotors still have plenty of life in them, at least these front ones. The rear ones, when we get there, you'll notice are in worse condition because of just general issues with the rear brakes on this car.
All been cleaned and ready to go?
Yeah, I think
okay,
it's ready.
So anti-seize then?
It's up there. So we're gonna anti-seize everything here.
Yeah, coat the whole.
Of course, we don't have the toothbrush you have.
I didn't bring my toothbrush either. So that's not too bad for doing it.
Ed was whining to me that I'm using too much. And I probably am.
Well, you can't really
Use too much of it.
You can't really put. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything. You can put excess on, I guess, but.
It doesn't spread as nicely as when you do it. You make it look like it spreads way nicer than it really does.
£80 £80
80 inch pounds?
Yeah, that's the front brake rotor bolt.
Yep.
So we're not 100% sure if this caliper is like brand new or remanufactured. I think brand new ones are actually like silver in color, like the one that we took off, and maybe remanufactured ones are black.
I think it's probably remanufactured. You wouldn't get a new one for $91.
Since Greg and his dad have an account at Ideal Supply, we can get a deal on these.
Just getting shop rate as opposed to paying retail.
So the first thing we're going to do is take the carrier here off the caliper. Or are we all just going to install it all in one piece?
No, we should take it apart because you have to take these apart to make sure there's actually grease in there anyway. So
okay, so we're going to start by taking all this apart. So we're going to cut. I'm going to replace the battery in the GoPro, and we're going to grind down a wrench, I guess.
okay, we got lots of grease. So just do the same on that one. Make sure that it's got lots of grease in it, and we'll leave it.
Yeah, lots of grease.
Less work for us.
Get it back over.
So you can look up a torque for that. I'll get you the big torque wrench.
I'm sure the inch-pound one could do it.
I highly doubt it.
Front brake caliper bracket bolt.
Yes.
So it's 111 foot-pounds and then 45 to 60 degrees.
So it's a stretch bolt that's supposed to be replaced every time you take it out.
Yeah, we're not replacing it.
No. Is there anything else it looks like?
Those are all the ones you have to replace.
You see 111 foot-pounds, not inch-pounds, right?
Yes. I'm gonna go.
So, what is it, 45 to 60 degrees?
Yes.
So we're just gonna add some value of torque to it.
Sketchy TV Productions, right?
Well, if they just give you a straight-up torque value instead of all this other BS, then you'd be fine. Let's try for 130.
130?
I don't think the Mark IVs are as much as this is.
surprised about that. When the VR6 one makes more power than this one.
That hose.
Ah, freaking hose. Damn hose. That's where the trouble started. Still kind of moving there.
Yeah, and we'll also have more than that again because of the anti-seize, right? You put stuff together dry, that's how they torque spec stuff. It's definitely not going to come off, that's for sure.
Alright, so the next step here is the caliper replacement.
Yes, and also the fun of anti-seizing these without getting it on the road.
Do we have to with these?
Well, you don't have to, but it prevents it from rusting as early.
Right. Okay.
We probably should have done that while the carrier was off, but then you got to be even more careful putting it on so you don't get it on the rotor. So yeah, let's get the caliper dealt with though, because that's going to be the fun part.
Let's lube up, I guess, the inside of the piston there. Brake fluid. Or are we gonna fill it first?
We'll do that when we can do that when we bleed it. Yeah, let's try and fill it. I brought a syringe somewhere there, maybe still. So take fluid out of your bottle, put it in there until it's as full as we can get it. Any brake fluid you get on here or on there, you're gonna lose the paint.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to keep the paint, let's try and keep it clean. But we'll fill it so that you don't lose as much out of the reservoir to fill the caliper.
I grabbed the bottle over there.
Yeah. And it's got new washers on it already.
Alright, so we're just going to remove the bolt here. And Greg has a syringe, and I have some cheap .3 brake fluid that we bought to just throw in the reservoir when it dumped all the brake fluid out. Which clearly happened over probably a 2 or 3 week.
Before we do that, we should also take the bleeder screw out and anti-seize it.
Oh, seriously, what the heck? Well, it's good that it's tight on now.
Yeah, you're not going to lose it at least.
What is that, a 8mm wrench?
10 at least.
We do have that.
Yeah. Bigger even is 11.
This is not, we don't have an 11.
What?
There's 10 and 12.
I guess that's what my set does too.
So we're gonna need to seize the bleeder screw here. So we put that shit on everything, as we've said multiple times.
Because when you want to bleed the brakes, because you had to put a new line on later. Now it's probably still in the distant future for you, but if you break the bleeder screw off, then you're putting a new caliper on, so just a little bit. Of course, this isn't in the frame, not that it matters either.
We apologize about the dog barking and the loud background noise. We don't film here very much. Yeah. Greg's place is much more convenient for filming, generally speaking. It's quieter.
As long as the dogs next door aren't having a cow.
Much better.
Is there a bleeder screw torque in that?
There is,
Because usually you don't get such
brake
information.
caliper bleeder valve is 89 inch.
Oh my goodness. So it needs an 11mm socket. Did you say 89? 5 and 4 is 9.
That's what
3/8 drive, 11mm. That's quite a lot for a bleeder screw. In my professional, improfessional. Ta-da! So now that we've done that, you'll never ever have to touch it. Because that's the way it works. If you do the preventative, then you never have to do anything with it.
Well, we'll have to open that later.
Sorry. Alright, now we can put brake fluid in here.
And yes, the Cruze uses .3. So that's why Greg doesn't have his big jug here. Because that's a different kind of brake fluid.
No, it is. That was useful. That is dot 3. I just didn't want to bring the big dirty jug. What the heck? Might have to. Can't see anything. There we go. Do not get brake fluid on painted surfaces, or it will not be a painted surface anymore.
Well, they don't call it paint stripper for nothing.
But brake fluid does not hurt rubber, which is nice.
So we're pre-filling the caliper just to make the brake bleeding process easier.
Yeah. Instead of using a bunch of fluid out of the line, I mean, it helps with letting the air out, but it's just like pre-bleeding a master cylinder before you put it on, because it's a pain once it's in the car. It's probably about all we're going to get, I think. Not better than nothing. I put
5 mils, probably.
to almost a teaspoon and a half in. Yeah, 6, 5, yeah, about 5 mils probably. The piston's all the way back, so when we push it out to engage your pads, it's going to be taking the fluid down from the reservoir, so we'll need to be ready for that. Did you check the reservoir again recently? Is it still right up?
The car only hasn't moved since Friday, except today. Shouldn't leak.
Well,
sitting there.
It was leaking out of the bleeder screw, just sitting doing nothing, so. Okay, so now we're to the fun of trying to change the line over without losing all the brake fluid on the ground.
Is it just going to come out and out and out?
Well, it shouldn't. It's definitely not going to be pressurized, and it shouldn't be a stream, but it will start to leak as soon as we take it off, just like you saw there.
All right,
So.
let's get set up for that.